My name is CouchCoop, and I want to briefly discuss my nomination process for this list of games. Although The Last of Us Part 2 can be considered a survival horror, for me that is just one of the aspects of a larger game. When it does shift gears and go into survival horror mode, it is incredible. This is the PlayStation 5 version, so it's the remastered version of the second game. Yeah, I know. I also want to keep this list as modern as possible and third person if I can. That means I can sidestep all that Amnesia and Outlast material, which I consider very strong in the genre, but not something I want to concentrate on in this video. This remaster of the sequel that was already remastered twice came out in 2024. I too suffer chronically from Pedro Pascal fatigue. And Naughty Dog, Druckmann, they're in a bit of a strange place at the moment. This sequel did not please everyone, but graphically and mechanically, it is one of the best in class. Second honorary, you said this was supposed to be a third person list. Well, just hear me out here with this one. Alien Isolation 2014, ladies and gentlemen. No SSD PS5 version of this game. That is criminal. That is unforgivable. This nomination is fast just going to turn into a massive rant. I clean forgot that I'd purchased both of those DLCs, The Crew Expendable and Last Survivor. I haven't exhausted those enough, so I hopped in the other day. I barely get anything done because it's set in the actual Alien 1 film set universe. Is unreal. I just couldn't get away from how un-9th gen it feels. It's grating. Got me angry. The anger is there because this is one of the most perfect survival horror games ever made. I think we can all agree on that. They nailed the AI and how the singular alien stalks you through the whole game. There's not really been much like it since. I have a couple of theories on why they're sitting on this cash cow, and it might be to do with Disney's buyout, 20th Century Fox, something's going on with the IP, maybe the rights are up in the air. I'm aware of the PC stuff and how you can crank this up a bit, and it would be something I consider purchasing. But I'm on my 12th year now of holding out for this to be given the next generation treatment. Never say never. Frickin' Blood Dragon just got a 60 frame update.
Parker? Lambert? Come on!
That is a voice sample from Ripley from an entirely different section of the film, right? Coop, are you even going to start this list officially? Can we get out of 2014 and away from Neil Druckmann? Okay, alright, made a little intro. And this isn't the last you've seen of Alien Isolation on the channel. And first in is the delectable Silent Hill F. Slight spoiler alert, this is not the only Silent Hill game in this list, and Team Blooper have got 2 games nestled in here. Narrowly missed being on my top 25 single player game list. F sits in an alternative universe, new characters, technically some new lore, but still nods to the original excellent formula. I do very much like the setting, and I think the combat is quite exciting, extremely melee based, quite intimate, and there's some excellent looking bosses. That is not an easy task, to be able to straddle both of those worlds, keep it modern but also keep it Silent Hill. The team managed it surprisingly well. They also introduced some really cool fob mechanics, and close quarters third person combat has gone through quite a lot of evolutionary change over the years, so they've managed to keep up to speed, which I feel is quite an accomplishment. When talking about this game, when I reviewed it standalone Halloween last year, I was mentioning the parallels between real-life trauma and how that manifests into the fantasy universe that loads of Silent Hills put you in. As a series, this is one of the main line themes. That in turn adds impact to what's going on within this nightmare-like world that they have laid out for you. And Silent Hill F is no exception to that rule. Okay, controversies afoot. It is the Dead Space remake. Love it or hate it, this is an undeniably strong survival horror game, and of course sci-fi, so that's added points from my direction. I extensively played the original game. I even got it on PC and put it up against this, and of course I'm a big fan of Dead Space 2, which also runs quite well on PC. The hopes of that game being re-released have kind of been dashed. That happened last year as well, but I did enjoy this Dead Space 1 remake. I thought it looked incredible. Some of the best graphics in the sci-fi survival horror genre. Why did it fall foul of some people? Well, the developers, the people that handled the remake, laid in these weird, not so subliminal messages everywhere. It wasn't really applicable, and it sort of left a bad taste in the mouth of anybody who really was a super fan of that original, and I consider myself one. The good news is that it's cheap as chips and kind of available everywhere, so you can get a look at this at a lower cost. Talk about throwing it in the face of the Dead Space remake, and yet it is Callisto Protocol, and you might know the connective tissue between Dead Space and this game. I had a hell of a lot of time for Protocol. The reason being is that it goes quite deep on the close quarters, swinging stuff around, and even last minute dodging and parrying. It's pretty incredible, but it also pushes onto projectile weaponry. The station also looks absolutely awesome, and the monsters, creatures, puzzles, it's all kind of perfectly pitched. I was quite surprised at some people not liking this. This game is so brutal. It's got to be the most violent and explicit on the entire list. Your deaths are so horrific that they even make me wince. That's saying something. And that was one of the first things removed from that Dead Space 1 remake. The gory Isaac death animations that were all individual and different to what had killed him. I know it sounds macabre and I've mentioned that before, but this is supposed to be survival horror. Bros, that was mild. That was a mild death. The paranoid conspiracy theorist in my head says to me that the remake team from Dead Space review bombed this and made sure it didn't get anywhere, because you know about that Starfin overlap, I imagine. Anyway, that's all alleged. This death is even worse. Look away, algorithm. So Callisto is quite metal in my eyes when it comes to the gore and level of violence you are treated to. A real stunner and a real unsung hero of that year, I feel. We are back in the hills for the Silent Hill 2 remake from Team Blooper. Now, that whole David Duchovny thing, if you can't unsee that, I completely understand, and I wish I'd never seen the meme in the first place, to be honest. And this footage is going to be deliberately skimpy because it may be coming back onto the channel in a standalone video. This is considered sacred Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2 is probably the most popular of the entire series. All, if not every, iconic Silent Hill enemy or character or situation is referencing this game in mainstream media. We've also just seen the release of another film, which I think is actually terrible, but I do have that slight affection for the Scene Bean 2006 film. Don't hate me. Why isn't this video game higher up on this list? Because surely it adheres to all of the main areas that appeal to me as a survival horror fan. A lot of it falls on preference. The Silent Hill games are very much psychological. There's quite a lot of dialogue and they enjoy their intricate puzzles. My favourite section of survival horror is obviously in that sci-fi direction and shooting some Geiger-esque monstrosity that's making its way to me in a corridor. It is horses for courses, and I want to recognise the brilliance of this remake because they have not moved any of the variables around at all, and it is reviewed incredibly well. It is one of the more atmospheric and spooky survival horror games on the entire list. And again, that also may appeal to people who are more involved in that supernatural side of things. I am very happy at Team Blooper that they put out an almost flawless remake of one of the most beloved games in the genre. And yes, I will entertain some glory hole jokes in the comments. So again, a little bit like the Alien Isolation thing, this will be revisited on the channel. I might be putting a top remake list together, and this would certainly be selected. I am slightly scraping the ceiling for this being a modern third-person survival horror title. The Evil Within 2 came out in 2017. I have a huge passion for The Evil Within 1. I standalone reviewed it. I've looked at it both on PC and console. It was a groundbreaker.
Oh, fuck.
This is just everything that that model offered and more. More depth on weapons, more space, more open areas to work with, loads more monster variety, great puzzles, great characters. I cannot believe we're not going to see a third one. Tango's gone out the window. We got really lucky with The Evil Within 2. Shinji is a bit godlike in my eyes, and this isn't the only game he's had involvement with on the list, and I also have a potential new Vanquish video coming up. Just thinking about how many unbelievably good games are around that guy's been involved with blows the mind. Weapons and armament are also a super important aspect to a decent survival horror game as far as I'm concerned, and this caters for you so well, just expanding on that plethora that you had access to in the first game, including upping the ante on that iconic crossbow. This game, up against everything else in this list, surprisingly enough, considering its age, still remains completely terrifying. Top marks for The Evil Within 2, and I would recommend the first game in that same sentence as well. Okay, we've only got a couple more games. Things are getting tense. So Team Blooper are back with Cronos A New Dawn and a lofty position in the list. They do have the advantage, in a good way, of cherry picking all of the mechanics we've seen in these previous and older games. The New Dawn is extremely strong and looks gorgeous. What it lacks in the breaking of molds, it makes up for with extremely well executed established mechanics within the genre. They have also constructed a very intriguing and atmospheric world to enjoy all of this gory violence in. Cat. I was talking before about Silent Hill being quite problem-solvy and dialogue-heavy. Cronos does have a bit of that, but I'm so interested in how the story is unraveling and how the locations are changing that none of it feels too forced or of an older format. The protagonist as well is just about right on the dialogue front, with keeping it minimal, being stone cold. It's kind of the perfect area really to get behind something on a sci-fi survival horror front. Sci-fi area as well is blended in with these traditional structures, Eastern European architecture. It all very much works. The gun, or the starting pistol, is built upon, a little bit like Isaac's tool in Dead Space 1. It has this minimal presence at the start of the game. You start bolstering things onto it, it turns into an absolute hand cannon. Please see my RoboCop Unfinished Business review. The difficulty is also perfectly pitched. It's actually quite a tough video game. Remember, this is supposed to be survivor horror, so you're struggling the whole time. That Dead Space remake moved a bit of the variables around with ammo and how much there is lying around underfoot. Cronos makes you think about every single bullet, which is kind of how it should be. Well, it is time for our number one. You've probably worked out what it's going to be. Process of deduction, etc. And I may have even put a clip in that intro. It's at this point that I will ask politely to like and subscribe. Not all of my videos are this laboriously long. And what local co-op survival horror game would you recommend, Coop? Well, it's got to be Resident Evil 5. I will link to the top 3 split-screen Resident Evil games in the description. That brings us on to our winner. Just leave her, Leon. She's of no use to anybody. She slows all of the levels down. Ashley is the bane of my life with this video game. I am actually only joking with that. And this remake, this is Resident Evil 4 by the way, kind of made me look at those levels through a different light. The first fruition of this game, it wasn't that great an experience having a completely useless character to escort around loads of levels. Dang, these dogs. They jump in the bushes. This whole thing's done like the Shining Maze. It's nothing short of panic inducing. You know you were talking about every bullet counts, didn't you just empty a whole clip of MP5 ammunition into that K9? Here's the thing with RE4, particularly that remake. It's got its fingers in loads of pies. It leans on sci-fi horror in areas. You go back to tradition with the landscapes and the villages. You use some old school weaponry and some brand new hardware. The scope is actually crazy and all of it's nailed. All of it feels natural and within canon for the series. That's why I think the Resident Evil games are so popular. Ashley, on the other hand, well, there is the cosplay.
Leon, the other side!
I didn't shoot her. I did not shoot her. Why is this remake #1 and you got old Dead Space sitting all the way back in the list? This video game comes with so much more content than its base RE4 release. It is ridiculous. It's almost unrecognizable. They have redesigned everything and added that Mercenaries mode. Ada Wong, my god. Well, sod it, we may as well just put Aliens Fireteam Elite on the list if we're going to be looking at gameplay like this. It's Mercenaries, it's different. That new RE engine is so smooth on that third person shooting. This is in quality mode as well. It's got ray tracing in the game. It's friggin' spectacular everywhere. And here's the thing, the pillars, the essential building blocks for what made RE4 so incredible are absolutely still in place. I'll never forget seeing this game on the Cube for the first time and just realizing the graphics have been upped a notch. Nintendo, can you get back in that position please? Ada's head just popping off there. That's Callisto level of violence. And talking of Ms. Wong, I want to include the DLC as a standalone video, so stay tuned, that one will be coming up. Big thanks for hanging around for 20 minutes, and I may well be putting some Watch Dogs 2 content out because every time I say something about a Ubisoft game, it gets a 60 frame patch. Fingers crossed, I'll see you down there. What was that?